How about race? Lots of things we don't like talking about, but lots of things need to be talked about, especially in parent educators. What do the data show in racial composition? African Americans have a higher rate of spanking than non-African Americans. Right? Now, here's a couple websites to go on to. One is called stophitting.com. This is pretty easy. It's right here in Ohio. Stophitting.com. Check it out. Check out the words of the NAACP. Check out the words of the Black Church Caucus. Check out the words of Elvin Poussaint. Check out the Oprah Winfrey's. Check out the Bill Cosby's. Check out the who's who in the black community, from preachers to movie stars. And check out not only their comments, because that's opinion, but check out the data. Check out the data to say, why are black kids hit more in school than non-black kids? This is a social phenomenon that everybody has to be involved in. In my work with the black community, I have a number of parents who talk about the whoopings as part of being black. All right, so let's open up the dialogue. Where do the whoopings come from in the black community? What's it related to? You think it's related to the slave experience? What evidence do you have? Or is that just hearsay? That the result of blacks hitting today is the result, or because blacks hit today is the result of the slave experience. What do you need to examine this? Right. Let's go pre-slave. Let's go to the black, let's go to Africa. Let's understand the black community. Let's go to Haiti. Let's go to the various countries of black communities. Right. Let's try to understand what happens before that. So let's go all the way back pre-slave. Let's go into Africa. Let's do an anthropological view, sociological view of what's happening to blacks before slavery. All right, a couple of things we have to do. Number one, we have to rule out or rule in neurological differences. Blacks are different neurologically than non-blacks, right? And the answer is not. There's no neurological difference. There's a cultural difference, but there's no neurological difference. So one can't say neurologically blacks are different from non-blacks. That evidence is very strong. All right. So now let's go into genes. Is it genetic? No. Why? No evidence, because people could be spanked and then all of a sudden generations of people not spanking. All right, so it's not genetic. All right, so let's keep going. Let's go back. Let's look at the families in Africa prior to the slave experience. Is there any evidence that they were beating, whooping, whippings? None whatsoever. So now we have trauma called the slave experience. And the trauma and the slave experience is one of America's most horrid example of inhumanity to human beings. The nooses that are coming out now. What's all that about, my friends? The pain, the suffering, the torture in the black community, the discrimination. What was the noose all about? All right, here's a story for you to read. Here's an account. Willie Lynch. Willie Lynch. Have you read Willie Lynch? Blacks, whites, Asians, Hispanics. We need to read Billy Lynch. Billy Lynch was a white plantation owner coming over to the colonies. And he was helping the colonists, if you will, institutionalize slavery. They didn't want babies being taught how to be a slave. They wanted babies reared in slavery. So now you create a slave culture. All right. Willie Lynch says what? How to terrorize a family. All right. First of all, in the middle of the night, right around 3:30. Why 3:30? Sleeping, and usually in REM sleep, which is the deepest sleep. So you never let anybody really rest. Hitler did the same thing with his SS troops, terrorizing people at 3:30, bombing and knocking in doors and grabbing people and terrorizing them. You never want to have the opportunity for a restful night's sleep, because at any given time on the plantation, for any reason, the slave master or anybody who's appointed can come in and terrorize. All right, so now we get a male dad, we get a father. And what do we do with the father? In the slave community, we terrorize this man. How? Tear him apart. Literally tear him apart. Hang him, burn him, cut his genitals off, draw and quarter him. Which the message being what? What's the message? You take the dominant one and now you're vulnerable. And the message that slave owners gave women, which is, mommies, you keep your kid in line, or if I have to do it, I'll beat the child. Right? If we go with the white-black scenario of the Rodney Kings, you know, once again with the white man's billy club banging on a black man, why does that evoke such pain in the black community? Let's go back to cellular memories. All right? There are cultural memories. There are cultural pain bodies. We deal with, it's an interesting phenomenon, if you would mind my conversation about an interesting phenomenon. From a sociological perspective, Jews and the Gypsies and the Polish going through the Holocaust in the World War II, what's the message? We shall never forget. We can't forget. We can't forget. We can't forget. Which means that the pain body is generated generation, 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 and it keeps going. All right. What about the slave experience? If it's been suppressed, as a lot of times in a number of African American communities, or in white-black relations primarily, the slave experience has been repressed, then all of a sudden the news comes out. Up comes all the pain, all the past pain that's still there. Why? Because it lives on, and it lives on. And perhaps it's not that blacks want to recreate the slave experience like the Holocaust, we shall never forget. Maybe it's a continuation of victimization, again and again symbolically. Here comes the noose. Here comes the white man's billy club. And it continues to bring back pain. So if you can imagine this one behavior called hitting, it's got racial overtones, it's got prejudicial overtones, it's got horrendous pain to it, and God's involved. And that's just two reasons why people hit, you see. Willie Lynch, my friends, read the book. He was suggesting, read the article, How to Make a Slave is the name of the article. How to Make a Slave. If you go, excuse me, if you go on Amazon, there are several books written by Lynch. And the interpretation. Black leaders have responded to that article. When they have responded to that article, it gives insight into perhaps why the whoopings are given to children, so the whippings won't occur to the child from the slave master. Yeah. Right?
Sometimes you hear that in the community, I'd rather hit them so the police don't.
Yeah.
So it goes back to, I'd rather hit them so the master doesn't.
These are tough things to talk about because underneath is a lot of pain. Right? And we've learned probably that there's some things you don't talk about, right? And perhaps race and religion are two. All right, so we've got that. We've already talked about gays and lesbians. What else can we talk about over here? And war. I mean, there's all kinds of things. So what is nurturing about? It's an open forum. It's an open forum that helps us understand our truths and our biases and our stories and history. And what does history tell us? Because the one thing we do want is for a multicultural society like ours to truly embrace the 10-0. In the black community, I have a number of colleagues. Margaret Jackson is one who lives out in Fresno. And she's very aggressive, but fun aggressive, challenging aggressive. And when she's working with her black parents, she says, Willie Lynch still raising your babies? Willie Lynch still in your house? Oh, boy, that spikes up some energy. Why are you listening to that white man raising your babies? Why are you listening to that white man telling you to whoop your babies? We blacks don't do that. Historically, blacks don't do it. Historically, Native Americans didn't either. If you go, again, behind the scenes, the white man's involved with America, and all of a sudden all kinds of things were happening. So,